Hot Takes or Toast brought to you by Siegfried and Jensen with 30 years of serving Utah. Question of the morning. What do you want to see from the Rooks in the Summer League? 7 o'clock tonight, Delta Center. Game 1 of 3 before they head off to Las Vegas. Pretty simple answer here, isn't it? There's going to be 2 answers from people if they limit it to one thing they want to see. Daniel says, I want to see the whole team, especially the rookies, tear it up. I want to see defense from everyone and, of course, some offense with some highlight reel dunks, blocks, and fast breaks. Wouldn't hurt to run a faster offense than what the Jazz did last year. I think he's leaning towards what I think is answer number 2, which is athleticism. Not going far in the NBA without athleticism. But the number 1 thing, shooting. How many times have we heard it's a make-or-miss league? You got to have shooters. So I want to see guys shooting it, and I want to see some off-the-charts athleticism, which this is a little bit of dog bites man right here, but why wouldn't you want to see this?
I want to see domination. Start to finish, 48 minutes.
Our rookies are better than your rookies?
Yeah, they've got to make the all-Rocky Mountain Review team. That's critical. I'd say having these 3, putting 3 on the all-Rocky Mountain Review team, it's more critical than winning the in-season championship.
Hot take right there. Oh, slow down.
That athleticism, well, Cody Williams provides it, so you don't have to worry about that. That's a guarantee. You're going to look for, as you said, the ability to do other stuff, put the ball in the basket, look like you can be a threat on the perimeter, look like you could be a threat on the dribble drive, those types of things. The other 2, you look at an Isaiah Collier, and we've seen some really good players at his position. You've got to have athleticism. But, you don't need to be a Russell Westbrook type of player, right, who had it in spades, right? He's just as athletic as it could be in his prime. The ability to get up and down the floor, move left, right, all those types of things, jump. He certainly had it. But then you look at somebody like Andre Miller, who played, 18 years in the league? And, he didn't have. Now, he had it, but we're talking about an elite level. But yet, he was an effective player for so very long. Using the body, the strength that he had. He was, relatively speaking, somewhat smaller, but he's one of these dudes who played much bigger than his actual height because he knew how to use it. He knew how to use the body to maneuver to get where he wanted to go. He had long arms too, right? We can all envision of Andre coming down, and he was one of these guys, if you put him in a foot race, he may not win, but if you asked him to dribble the ball and run, he seemed much faster doing that. And then he'd get in the lane and he'd do that leaner, and he'd have those like Kevin McHale arms, and he'd make the shot, right? We can all envision that.
I was visualizing it as you painted the picture.
Yeah. So it's like Pablo after the game the other night. I want our guys to be scanning the field. And as soon as he said that, I was like, I can envision what he's talking about. Being on the field, scanning the field, like Stockton would do. He'd come down. He would scan the court, had the ability to make the play before it even developed or know what the play was going to be before it developed. Well, Andre could do that too. So I'm looking at Collier. Do I need him to have super elite athleticism? Maybe not. But if you don't have that, then you better have some other stuff that makes you elite. You see where I'm going with that?
Yeah, I don't know if Andre Miller type elite will show itself in Summer League. Everything's so scrambled there, and I think structured play works.
You're just listening for glimpses, though.
That's absolutely true, because we're going to be looking at 19 and 20-year-olds, and we're going to be figuring, well, they better be better at 24 and 25. But so show me a glimpse of what they can do. Realistically, that's the best you can hope for.
Right, and Williams will show you that athleticism. I have no doubt about that. That's like zero concern there. Filipowski, be decisive in what you do. You have a lot of experience in college relative to the experience that kids coming in the league have now. You played 2 years. You played, I think, 70, 71, 72 games. So you basically had double what most of these kids have right now, right? And so I want to see that. I want to see you be more comfortable. And I know all three, and correctly, when asked what do they expect, I don't know, man. Jeez, I'm just showing up and doing what they tell me to do. And that's the right attitude to have going into this. But this is an exciting little 3 days here locally, and then it'll continue on to Vegas next week. Show us something, right? You show us something, okay, that's all we're asking for. I mean, the bar is very low. If you exceed it, great. If you don't, like, oh, man, a little nervous there. Well, if you meet the expectations, which I expect is what will happen, they're like, okay, yeah, I see why these guys drafted these three individuals. Sure, yeah, all right. I'm fine with that. I mean, if they just show you a little, so they don't have to go out and be all that. I'm not going to go crazy either way, but what I don't want is guys just look like they're totally lost, which I don't think is going to happen.
And the shooting?
The shooting, yeah, that's a developing thing there. I would suspect that Filipowski would be able to shoot. But, you're going to be nervous. So I'm looking for form, right? Shooting can come and go to an extent. But when you see someone just in rhythm, and we know what a good shooter looks like. And these guys have track records on this. Who was it? Was it Steve Cleveland, I think, was talking about, can you really develop into a really good shooter if you're not already a good shooter? Because these kids, although they're puppies, they've been playing this game for a good long time and literally played hundreds, if not thousands of games at this point, right? And so can you be a good shooter if you're not? Can you get better? Sure. Can you be an elite level? Like, take a guy like Joe Ingles, right? When he first came into the league, we weren't sure what he got. Well, then he developed and he worked on that thing where he would catch the ball around his neck and not bring it down and shoot it. And well, he became an elite three-point shooter. Was it already there? How much better did he get? That would be a question for him the next time we talk to him. How much better did you get? Statistically, he got better. There's no question about it. You can look it up, right? You see it. But was it already there? Brook Lopez, when he first came into the league, the centers weren't shooting threes. Well, that developed during his literal time in the league, and you go look at them, just the amount of that he took.
Yeah,
you can look this up.
Zero.
Basketball Reference. Yeah.
It went from 0 to all of a sudden he's shooting every game, multiple threes. It just becomes a normal part of their offense.
Yeah. And he certainly got better, but how much was already there that allowed him to get better? He didn't shoot it back then because nobody did to the level that they do now. So those are things that we'll see as they go. I want to see these guys, if they get the shot, don't be tentative, just jump up, nice form, don't brick it, don't shatter the backboard, that type of thing. I think we can see that in these games, even if they go 2 for 8.
Watch the free throws. That's what scouts always talk about. You can't shoot the 3 right now, but he shoots free throws really well. So when he goes out there and works on the 3, there's something to build off of, and he can do it. Now, I think that happens less than it used to, because Steve Cleveland has also told us every time he goes to one of his kids' games, back when his grandkids are older now, but when he went to his grandkids' games, he's like, 9, 10, 11-year-olds are out there launching threes. So I don't think they have to learn it the way Lopez did. But your point, Lopez was like an 81, 82% free throw shooter. He could shoot. He just hadn't practiced shooting from 24 feet. So,
right, it wasn't required. It wasn't asked.
Yeah, and once he did that, well, then he turns into a, looks like 35, 36, 37% three-point shooter. So he can hit enough of them to keep you honest.
Right.
But, yeah, nobody was asking for that in 2010. But by 2020, it's a different game.
Yeah, totally.
So go on the free throws, and that is the boring part of the game right there. That's time to look around and people watch and all that. But no. Watch them shoot free throws, because they can shoot free throws if they work on it, especially if they work on 1 or 2 spots on the floor. You need to be able to shoot straight away, right down the barrel. and you need to be able to hit a corner three. Wherever they're going to put you in the offense, wherever they're going to spot you up. Work on one spot first. Will Hardy's big on that. Don't work on 10 things, work on one or two. Okay, work on the corner three. And so whatever it is they work on, if they can already shoot the free throws, then they can probably at least be decent. Maybe they'll end up being better than that. Now, Filipowski, he ought to come in and be able to be pretty good right away.
Yeah, I mean, that's the strength of his game.
Strength of his game, right. The pro line's a little further out, but come on. He's been working on it for a couple of years. You can't convince me he hasn't.
Well, as we've talked about, these kids knew that this day was going to come probably for 2, maybe 4 years.
Yeah.
In the case of Collier, maybe even more, since he was so highly touted. And Williams was highly touted too. Both of them, you can argue, relative to their ranking, for whatever that means, had disappointing their only seasons in college. Now, injuries and illness and stuff factored into all that, and I'm not really worried about that. But if you wanted to, you could make a little bit of a case, which is cool, because Collier already talked about that, man, that he didn't like being drafted 29th. So you got something going there, and Williams, maybe he thought he should have gone higher, and all that stuff. So all these kids have a lot to prove, including the second-year guys. Hendricks, tons of stuff to prove. George, tons of stuff to prove. Kessler ought to be irritated that they're asking him to do it as a third-year guy.
There is one thing I'm looking for that falls outside of the shooting, number one, athleticism, number two, and it's something I want to see from Collier because of what we were told during an interview. And I will get to that. We will get to that next. Stay with us. The band of the day today is Toby Keith. He would have been 63 years old today. It's brought to you by Live Nation. For all the live concerts and events in 2024, check out livenation.com.
Yeah, Toby died earlier here. Well, a while back, I should say. Not too long ago. What was it, January? I think he's.
I wanted to say it was February, but yeah, right in that
February.
room.
Yeah, and out of Norman, Oklahoma, and big star, and had some cool tunes, and that was one of them.
Toby Keith, band of the day. We'll have Toby Keith music all morning long. We were talking about a question. It's up on Facebook, DJ and PK. What do you want to see from the Rooks in the Summer League? Yak got us one of the people who covers USC basketball, and he said one thing Collier got.
Connor Morissette,
yeah. And Connor said one of the things that Collier got dinged for was the passing, the poor passing, assist turnover, and he said a big factor is that the SC bigs weren't very good and did not do a good job of catching the ball. You know, sounds simple, but he said Collier threw good passes and they go out of bounds because people couldn't move their feet. And he'd throw a good pass and somebody would fumble it and it wouldn't be a turnover, they wouldn't get the bucket. Or they fumble it and it'd be a turnover. And so I'm curious to see him with a different group of bigs and whether he's playing with Kessler or Filipowski or whoever's out there. Is he throwing alley-oops? Is he splitting double teams with bounce passes and getting guys easy layups? Because that is Connor provides the plausible explanation, and we'll get a little better of idea here. Now, without a lot of structure, maybe we'll see more of the same thing. Summer League games, we have seen a few sloppy Summer League games, so this may not be the ultimate test, but it's a different group of guys, so it ought to give us at least a little hint about that.
Oh, you're talking right there, the life of Caitlin Clark. She's dropping dimes left and right, and these clumsy gals ain't catching her passes, so she's leading the W in turnovers. Well, let me tell you, man, wake up on the other end. Same situation. We ought to get Isaiah with Caitlin, CC, and Isaiah, and they can discuss the very same thing. Catch the freaking ball.
I hit you in the hands. Catch it.
Jeez. You're barking right up my alley, man. I've been on this soap opera box for a long time.
Soap opera box?
Yeah. Oh, you
there's
don't think
soap
the
operas and there's soap boxes.
No,
soap
you
opera
don't
box.
think the W hasn't turned into a soap opera? Come on.
Nice save.
That was intentional. If I have a stick save and it's a dandy, I'll let you know.
Oh, nice. What do you want to see from the rookies in the Summer League? Sammy says, I want to see honor, tradition, and spirit.
Oh, that's very good. Very good.
Thank you.
Well, then I won't be able to remember what their names are.
Yeah, just stick with the basics. Put the name on the jersey. Let's go.
Basketball, we know their faces because of the fact that we see their faces.
And there aren't that many guys to remember.
Well, that's true.
In case of the WNBA, there aren't that many women to remember. But in football, you got these huge rosters. How am I supposed to know all 53 NFL players and all 85 college football scholarship guys?
Well, a lot of times I'll know their names, but I won't recognize their faces because they got the helmets on. Before I covered BYU, I was asked to go up to Fresno and do a game. One of our guys was, I think he was running the St. George Marathon, actually. So Cragthorpe said, hey, we need you to go to Fresno to cover this BYU game. Okay, fine, whatever. No problem. And so I go up there and cover. And that's the game. Me and Andy Katz sat in the press box just discussing our futures because his wife was just finishing up I think a social worker advanced degree, and what were we going to do? And I said, oh, who knows? But he wasn't content in staying in Fresno the rest of his life, whereas turns out I'm staying in Salt Lake the rest of my life. And I get it. He wasn't from there, but took it because it was a job. And after the game, I requested a player, and the Fresno locker room was actually like the baseball locker room a half a mile away or something. I'm exaggerating. So I requested a linebacker or somebody. Well, I hadn't covered BYU, and the kid comes out, and he's standing there, it seemed like for 10 minutes. I'm sure it wasn't that long. But I didn't know that was him.
That's a problem. I think we've all been there at some point. Who's this? But they bring a guy out of the podium. Please introduce this person.
But I knew the name. That's why I requested him. But I didn't know what his face looked like because I hadn't been covering BYU. I just watched it on TV.
He's not wearing a jersey with a number for you anymore.
I know. Right. He had just like the T-shirt underneath and the pants. Yep. And so I stood there looking at him. It was probably only 2 or 3 minutes, but it seemed like it was 10 or 15. And I think the sports information, that's him. Oh. Because in football, and I was thinking about this the next couple of days, all these Big 12 guys, I'm going to have to ask their names. I'm going to know their names, but I'm not necessarily sure what they look like because it's all brand new. And we had that problem a little bit with Pac-12. They would bring a guy over in the early years, and you knew what school he went to, but you weren't sure because there was 2 of them, an offensive and defensive. And a lot of us, it was our first time exposure to those, and I think we made a couple of mistakes. So with basketball, you know their names. So we're going to know what Collier and Williams and Filipowski and Hendricks and all these guys look like. So it's not near the issue. But I'm excited to watch. I will be sitting in a Vegas sports book tonight to be able to watch that, the game. And I think it starts at 6 Vegas time, 7 o'clock our time. It's on ESPN, is it not?
It's on K-Jazz locally, and is it ESPN or NBA TV?
ESPN tonight, and also you see it here on the Zone.
And listen, you can listen on the Zone. How about that? If you were in your car, that would be very useful.
Well,
but not in a Vegas sportsbook.
Do they not black out? But what's the phrase that you got to be in the market to listen to it for Summer League too?
I don't know about Summer League in the regular season. You would. It would be blocked in Las Vegas in the regular season, but. That'd be worth a text to David Locke. See if he knows the answer to that. My guess is it's not. I'll bet you could grab your phone and listen live, but I'm not positive. We'll have to confirm that with David.
Well, I'll be watching it.
DJ PK, and we're joined by John Woodbury, the Ultimate Sports Bash, coming to the Convention Center in Sandy, 94th South and State Street, Friday and Saturday. You got some athletes coming in. People are going to meet heroes, and I'm interested. First off, there's some big names, and people always want to know the big names, so give us the biggest dose of celebrity you can.
Nick Raimondo, Greg Ostertag, Brian Russell, Cam Rising, Britton Covey,
But you have Ute fans' attention. If you have Cam Rising and Britton Covey, you have the Ute fans' attention.
We have a lot of Utes and Cougars. The BYU and Utah have both just been fantastic to work with. They're sending a lot of athletes. It's going to be real red and blue.
Are they sending current athletes, ex-athletes, a mix of both?
Mix of both. Lots and lots of current athletes.
Okay. That's good. Honestly, I think with the NIL thing, people give money to people they know. Yeah. And so the more that these guys can get themselves out there in the traditional media, on social media, and opportunities like this, you got to know who they are, and they got to know. I mean, you kind of grew up with sports a little bit, didn't you?
I did. We used to have players over to our house for dinner when I was a kid. Yeah. I remember in the early '80s, before it became a big thing with the NCAA, we used to have players come over for dinner, and it was a lot of fun. It was a really great way to grow up.
John's from the Woodbury family, if you're familiar with the word. Woody! Longtime sports information guy at the University of Utah. I don't know, 30 years? More?
35.
35, okay. Yeah. That's all I knew for a long time. Just call Woody if you want to know. Woody knows.
He always had the answers.
Now, you've got these high profile, and obviously you tap into the Utes and Cougars, but then you've tapped into some people where you got people who aren't famous by name, but then you hear about the play they're involved in. And then you realize, oh, they've got stories.
Yeah. Actually, Steve Wright's going to be on the show a little bit later. He's an interesting guy. He was on the TV show Survivor. He was on season 22.
Which I had no idea about. I got nothing for you there. But he was the right guard, and Tony Dorsett ran right by him. I've watched the play since I found out he was going to be on. I mean, I've seen it a million times, but I'd never stared at the right guard. So I stared at the right guard, and Dorsett runs right by him. And actually, the defender jumped the wrong way, jumped to the other gap.
Yeah.
And then he got in there and shielded him off when he tried to come back, and Dorsett was gone in a flash, 99 yards on Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
Longest touchdown run ever.
Absolutely. And there's so many athletes out there that have such unique experiences and unique stories, and they may not be the household names, but they're so fascinating. Michelle Manu is going to be there. She's in the International Martial Arts Hall of Fame. She just got a Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award from President Biden she's a stunt woman. She is a producer. She just does amazing
like
things.
Like a bit of movies, TV shows, that kind of?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And fascinating. Wheels Fotheringham, Aaron Wheels Fotheringham, fascinating guy. He was in Nitro Circus. He does extreme stunts in his wheelchair. And just a fantastic human being and a great athlete. And so there's a chance to meet some of these guys that you just didn't know about, that you're going to be fascinated with and really interested to meet. And they're good people.
Yeah, I think Wright was a rookie when he made that play. And we always talk about the undrafted guy. He's an undrafted guy in 81, and he played into the 90s.
Yeah.
He was in the league more than a decade. Had a long run with the Raiders, a couple of years with the Cowboys. So, interesting. All right, looking forward to it. So, John, once again, the times, Friday and Saturday, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Yep, right when it's going to be 104 degrees.
Air-conditioned, he'd like to point out.
It is an air-conditioned building. You're going to want to come. Bring your kids.
So there's interactive stuff for the kids to do. There's vendors for some of the stuff that you need in sports, or maybe stuff you don't know you need that you'll learn you need that you'll be interested in.
Yeah, sports cards. We got a lot of sports cards traders and vendors. We've got a wrestling company that's going to teach you how to do pro wrestling. We also have Olympic wrestling coming out from UVU. They just hired one of the best coaches in the country, and he's going to be there talking about their wrestling program. Just if you love sports, this is the place to be.
All right, John Woodbury, the Ultimate Sports Bash, Friday and Saturday, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. How much are tickets?
$40 for a day and $60 for 2 days, and we have a family pass for $150 for both days.
There you go. DJ and PK, thanks, John. Ultimate Sports Bash coming up Friday and Saturday, 9400 South and State Street at the Convention Center.